Okay, let's work these out. So our first one here, 12.5 inches to centimeters. Okay, let me come over here. .5 inches, and we want to go to centimeters. Okay, now if we look at the conversion, come back to the PowerPoint, you see here 1 inch equals to 2.54 centimeters. So let's write that down. 1 inch equals to 2.54 centimeters. Okay, so we need to cancel out the units. Now watch how I do this. If you can do this type of problem, you can pretty much do any chemistry problem. So it's very important that you get this technique down. Okay, so we start with our original unit, which is 12.5 inches. Okay, and we start doing this sort of cross-sectional thing. Now anytime we want to cross out a unit, we have to put it diagonal. Okay, we don't want our final unit in inches, we want it in centimeters. So we want to get rid of inches. So we use this conversion right here. So we see that, bring it over here, 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. When you have kind of over each other, this line right here is kind of like an equals. So this is saying 1 inch equals to 2.54 centimeters. And if you need to know, okay, where do I put each one? Do I put, the centimeters down here? Do I put the inches up here? What do I do? Well, it depends on what you want to cancel out. I want to cancel out my inches and leave centimeters, so I have to put inches diagonal to each other. So that means I put the inch down here. Okay, so then I have inches cancel out, cancel, cancel, so it's just 12.5 times 2.54, which equals to 31.75 centimeters. Okay, now let's try another one. This other one is a little bit harder than what it seems. So we have 3 centimeters squared. Notice it's squared, and that's going to be the harder part. Now it's not hard, it's just you have to add another step you might not have thought of. Okay, and we want to convert this into inches. Well, we already know the unit we're going to use. We already know that 1 inch equals to 2.54 centimeters. Okay, so we're not going to change that. Okay, so let's start with our original unit, which is 3 centimeters squared. Okay, now what do I want to put down here? I have a centimeter here. Do I want my final units in centimeters? No. So I'm going to put centimeters down here. And then let's look further. I'm not just putting centimeters, I'm putting centimeters squared. Okay, so if we come back up here, we know that 1 inch, let me highlight this and kind of put this in maybe a purple. Okay, so we know that 1 inch equals to 2.54 centimeters. Okay, so let's do the rest of this problem here in purple. Okay, 1 inch, and then we know down here is 2.54. Now notice right here we put 2.54 centimeters on the bottom, but up here we put 1 inch at the bottom. Why is that? The units. I want to cancel out inches here, but here I want to cancel out centimeters. Okay, so it's just Depends on the unit, what you put on the bottom, what you put on the top. Okay? But now I need to square it. Do you see that this is squared? So this needs to be squared. But I need to square everything. So I'm going to put a parentheses, which means include everything in this parentheses, and square it. Okay? So if we put 2.54 squared in your calculator, you are going to get 6.45. Okay? And that is, again, 2.54 squared. Now let's look at this. Oh, one thing I do need to add is when you're looking at a cross here, that's what you're multiplying. So you're doing 12.5 times 2.54. And if there was another section over here, you'd be like times that number, times that number. So everything on top is multiplied. Everything on bottom is multiplied. And then when you see what's on bottom and top, that's divided. So let's see what I'm talking about. Down here, I'll have 3 times 1, which is 3. And then I'm going to do that number, 3, divided by what's on the bottom, 6.45. So 3 divided by 6.45 is 0.465. Oh, and this is squared. Inches squared. And sorry, and this number should also be squared. Okay, so that's the answer there. Now let me pull up a new thing here. Now let me show you this, what I'm talking about. So if I have a cross section here, let's say, I'm just going to do a big one. Let's say 3, I'm just going to put numbers in here. 12, 1, and I don't know, 6. Okay, don't worry about units right now, but let's just look at the numbers, pretend there's units with them. Now let's say at the bottom, maybe we have a 1, a 4, and a 5. Okay, so we need to look at how do we read this. This is saying equals to 3 times 12 times 1 times 6. Notice it says everything at the top. Okay? Put that in parentheses. And then we're going to divide that by everything at the bottom multiplied. So 1 times 4 times 6. Okay, so when we do this, you're going to do everything at the top. So I have my calculator out. 3 times 12 times 1 times 6. And I'm going to get 216. Divided by 1 times 4 times 6, 24. Okay, now if I divide those numbers, 216 divided by 24, I'm going to get 9. So my final answer is 9. So I just want to make sure you know what these sort of cross sections mean. So you're going to multiply everything at the top, multiply everything at the bottom, then you're going to divide the two numbers together. Okay, so let's do the next problem. And this one is going to be a little bit longer. And also know that there's several ways you can usually do these. So if you do one a little bit different, but you get the same answer, it's okay because it's just how you did your units versus how I did mine. It's not a right or wrong answer, it's just, how did you get there? Okay, so let's look at this one. We need to go from, let's see, 5 points, whoa, let's not do that. Let's do 5.7 liters, and we want to convert that to inches cubed. Now, if you look directly on here, there's not a direct way to do it. I mean, there's not one that says if we find liters does not go directly into inches cubed, okay? But let's see what we do have. We have 1 liter equals to 1,000 milliliter, which equals to 1,000 cc's, which is centimeters cubed. So you see, basically a cc, do you see here? 1 milliliter equals 1 cc. So let's look at that. And a cc again is a centimeter cubed, and we know that 1 inch equals to 2.54 centimeters. Okay, so let's see this. We know that, let's write down everything we know. And sometimes these are a puzzle, trying to figure out how can I get to this final unit. Okay, and that just comes with practice. You know, you'll see, oh, okay, liters, inches cubed. Okay, I can do this, to this, to this, to this, and get it. And so again, this is just practice. So we have liters. We know that 1 liter equals to 1,000 milliliters. And we know that 1 milliliter equals to 1 centimeter cubed. And we know that 1 inch equals to 2.54 centimeters. Okay? So now we need to put all of these together. And we need to figure out what order to put them in. So we go back to our original number, which is 5.7 liters. Okay, so we have 5.7 liters. Okay, so we have a liter right there. What do I need to put down here? Liters. Okay, so we find our unit that has a liter in it, and that's this top one right here. And we know that 1 liter equals to 1,000 milliliters. So let's put that, so the line is equals to 1,000 milliliters. Okay, so again, I know to put liters down here because I want to cancel it out. The only unit I have written here that does that, 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters. Okay, but that's not the final unit I want to use. I don't want it in milliliters, so I need to go further. I know that I want to cancel out milliliters because that's not my final unit. Okay, so I want it to be in milliliters. So I have 1 milliliter equals to 1 centimeter cubed. Well, let's use that one. So I'd say 1 milliliter equals to 1 centimeter cubed. Okay, so I'm getting closer. I don't want it in centimeters cubed, I want it in inches cubed, but I'm definitely closer. One more step. Now I want to cancel out centimeters cubed, so I put that down here. I want my centimeters to be cubed. Okay, so remember here we have 2.54 centimeters equals to 1 inch. But we don't want it in just regular inches and centimeters. We want them cubed. So all you do is you just cube the numbers and units. So I know that 2.54. Now I don't want to just cube the unit. I need to cube the whole number. So I'm going to put a parentheses right there. So I need to cube that number equals to 1 inch. If you want, cube this whole thing here. Okay, so let's see what we have. Now we have 5.7 multiplied by 1,000 times 1 times 1. Okay, so and then we're going to divide that by 2.54 cubed. So I have 5.7 times 1,000. That's going to be 5,700. 5700. We're going to divide this by 2.54 cubed. So 2.54 raised to the 3 is 16, we'll say 16.4. 16.4. Now we're going to divide these numbers. So 5,700 divided by 16.4. And hold on. 7 times 1,000 equals divided by 2.54 raised to the third. Yes, this equals to, we'll say 347.8 inches cubed. Okay, so hopefully you're kind of getting used to it. Don't panic if you're still having trouble with this. This is sort of a new thing you're learning. Some people are going to get it really quick. You know, maybe they have more of a math background, or maybe they're just better at math, you know, and that's fine. It just means you're going to take a little bit more work. You know, math definitely the subject most people struggle with. So don't worry. Just keep doing more problems, and we'll have more example problems to do. So let's do one more. Okay, let's convert 76 miles to meters. Okay, so we have, let me use a different color. I'm going to use this midnight color. This one looks pretty. So we're going to have, whoa, not that, 76 miles. That's not a mile. That, here. Ah! Sorry, my pen is going crazy. So let's start this again right here. 76 miles, and we're going to go 2 meters. How do we do that? So I gave you a little hint on the side. Okay, we're going to have, down here, 1 kilometer equals to 0.6214 miles. Okay, that's one I give you. Another one I give you is 1 kilometer equals to 1,000 meters. Okay, now let's use these. Now we go to our original unit, which is 76 miles. 76 miles. Okay, and we're going to convert this to meters. So the first thing I need to do is figure out which unit uses miles. So say the miles is right there. So that's the unit I have to use, because this one doesn't even have a miles in it. So where do I put miles? Do I put it on top or the bottom? Well, since I want to get rid of miles right here, I'm going to put it on the bottom. Okay, so let me draw that. I'm going to have 0.621 14 miles to 1 kilometer. Okay, now what am I going to do? I have a kilometer here, so that means I need a kilometer right there, so I use my next unit. 1 kilometer equals to 1,000 meters. Now let's make sure my miles cancel. That's good because I don't want it in miles. Kilometers cancels. That's good. I don't want it in kilometers. Does meters cancel? No, because that's what my final unit will be. So your final unit will always be the last unit given. Okay, so I'm going to have 76 multiplied by 1,000, and then I'm going to divide that by 0.6214. Okay, so when I have this in my calculator, 76 multiplied by 1,000, get 7,600, divided by 0.6214, you get a pretty large number here. you're going to have over here 122,304, and we'll just put 0.5. Okay? Now this is good to go over scientific notation here. Now that's a pretty big number, so how you could write it is like this. And let me show you how I get the number 2. I could write this as 1.2, this is a decimal right here, multiplied by 10. So 1.2, you always have the last 2 numbers, and you want to put, let me use a different, quit my messenger. Okay, let me use pink. Pink will work. Pink is a nice color. Okay, so I want to move this decimal point right here to right here. And I always want to point to the last, it's going to be right behind the last one. So let's see, how many spaces do I have to move? I move 1 between 4 and 0, 2, 3, 4, and then finally 5 right there. So it's going to be 1.2 times 10 to the 5. Okay, this is meters. Let's do another one. Let's say we have 0.00062. Okay? Now also let me show you here. Do you see that this is a big number? It's a large number. So that's a positive 5, the exponent will be. This one's going to be a small number because I have a decimal here. Anytime you have a decimal, it's a small number, so it's going to have a negative number. But let's see how many spaces I move it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's always between either the first 2 numbers or the last 2 numbers. Okay, so this will give me 6.2 times 10. Okay, so it's either, again, the last 2 are the first 2 numbers multiplied by 10. Now, since this is a decimal number, it's really small, it's a 0.00062, this would be a negative. And then how many spaces did we move it? 1, 2, 3, 4, so the negative 4. And I guess one more just for a good measure. So if we have 6,100, no, I'm making up numbers as I go. Okay, so let's say we have this, and we want scientific notation. So that means the decimal's right here. See, this is a big number. It's not a small one. So I'm going to move it over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So it'd be 6.0 times 10. It'd be a positive 5 or negative 5. Positive 5 because this is a large number. Okay, so I hope that helps a little bit with units, a little bit with scientific notation. Again, we'll do some more. The last thing I want to go over in this lecture are derived units. This is when you start combining units. For example, volume is a meters cubed, or it could be a centimeters cubed. Density is the one we're really going, so derived is when you start combining units. Okay, do you see a meters cubed? That means I use 3 meters. If I have a meter squared, that would be area, and that means I use 2 meters. Since I didn't just use 1 meter unit, okay, I use 3 of them, it's called a derived unit. The one we're going to talk about is density right here. And density equals to mass per volume. Okay, this is a physical property. A density is density. You can't change the density of a substance. It doesn't matter what volume you have or what mass you have. The density is always the same. Okay, it's sort of the heaviness at a constant volume. Okay, how heavy something is. So let's think about this: oil and water. Oil floats on water, right? Okay, So that means oil is less dense. So if you want, it weighs less per volume, so it floats. That means water is more dense, so it's at the bottom. Let's look at a rock. A rock, you throw it in water and it's going to sink. So which one is more dense? That would be the rock, okay? So density basically is how heavy something is when you're comparing volume, okay? Is it going to float on something or is it going to sink? And that's density. And the SI units would be kilograms per meter cube, but usually when we're doing a problem, we're actually going to do it in grams per milliliter grams per milliliter, okay? We'll go over some problems in the next lecture, how to do density, because that's a whole another type of problem we can go over. So in the next lecture, we'll do a little bit more density and go over some problems that can come up.